I'm sure when you hear Zanzibar, you only picture one side. The beautiful sandy beaches, palm trees everywhere, the gorgeous architecture of Stone Town, tiny streets with limestone walls buzzing with motorcycle noise, and the beautiful prayer calls from the mosques around. But in the past few years, there's been a gradual change on how Zanzibar looks. Some parts have this modernized look in terms of buildings and transport infrastructure. But why all this change? To the few who don't know anything about Zanzibar, here is a short 30-second story. A semi-autonomous region of Tanzania, it's composed of more than 52 islands, also known as the Spice Islands, since spice plantation is among the driving industries of its economy, with tourism on top. It has two main most populated islands, Unguja and Pemba. Unguja being its capital where the famous Stone Town is located, and most of the historic and tourist attraction places are. And yes, it has its own president and its own flag. Okay, now let's continue. The change in infrastructure of Zanzibar is mainly brought by two main factors. One being adapting to the new or modern ways of life, and second is to develop Zanzibar to accommodate and facilitate tourism activities. Now let's get to understand these points more. Zanzibar's Stone Town has really old buildings, with some even reaching 320 years old, like the Old Fort. These buildings were built during the Arab rule in Zanzibar back in the 18th century. Most of these structures were built with limestone and coral rocks, compared to the current buildings which barely need maintenance. The past infrastructures become absolute to the current way of living. Also, the population of Zanzibar has grown since it got its independence, with just 74,000 people to currently in 2020, 705,000 people, at least 10 times. Modern infrastructures were needed to accommodate all these people and also to facilitate their movement. A good example is the construction of public buildings in the Michezani in the 1970s, through an urban renewal plan started by the Zanzibari Revolution government, to now the construction of modern buildings like the Michezani Mall. Tourism is another factor that has really helped the development of Zanzibar. There has been a huge growth in the tourism industry in Zanzibar since it opened its borders back in the early years. In Zanzibar, apart from the Stone Town and other historical important buildings in the city center, most of the beautiful beaches and amazing islands are far from the city, at least 10 kilometers or more. The construction of roads and airports have been implemented by the Zanzibari government to ensure easy access. I can clearly speak from experience that the roads in Zanzibar are extremely good and easily understood even by foreigners. In 2020, the new Terminal 3 was opened at Aman Abeid Karume International Airport, which is said to increase the number of tourists that can be received at once. All these activities are not only to attract and facilitate tourists, but also to make the life of the Zanzibari better and modern. The development of Zanzibar isn't only because of the government, but also its people. The Zanzibari have been gradually changing their lives in terms of encouraging education to their children and exposing themselves to different people so as to accommodate anyone who visits Zanzibar. This can clearly be seen when you visit Zanzibar. Out of 10 people, at least 3 people will be able to communicate in more than 3 languages. I hope you now have an idea on why there's some changes on how Zanzibar looks. Thank you very much for watching this week's episode. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe and enjoy more videos like this. Special thanks to my brother Ali Yape for the footages and showing how amazing Zanzibar is.